Well, thank you all for making such a prompt return from lunch, and I know you're all busily engaged in very much the partnership working that Martin was talking about earlier on, and hopefully that long way will continue in the coming months. I just want to thank you again all for making the effort to come today. It's been very useful to see you all here, and very nice to meet some of you over lunchtime. Seeing lots of familiar faces in the audience, but some I haven't met as yet, and hopefully I'll get a chance to in the coming weeks and months. I'd like now to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Erik Huggers, to the stage, who's the Director of the Future Media and Technology Division of the BBC. And hopefully Erik's going to give you all a good insight into some of the plans for the FM&T teams at Media City, but also a wider across the BBC. Thank you very much. Please welcome Erik to the stage. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. What I thought I'd do is talk a little bit about some of the things that FM&T, Future Media and Technology, has been engaged in, some of our ambitions, some of our visions for where we think things are going. I want to then take it back to how does that link to the great efforts going on right behind us, and how does FM&T play into that? And then I want to finish up by talking about what our needs are for new employees that we're trying to attract, because we are absolutely interested in working with the education sector to make sure that the inflow of talent in particular areas is something that we start to take care of, because we do see some issues there. But let's get started. So basically, technology has been at the forefront of the BBC's thinking since its inception. And if you think about it, the very, very first employee of the BBC, Lord Reith, was actually an engineer. And not many people know that it was originally the technologists who ran the BBC, and then the content people took over. I wonder if we're at a point in time again where we can flip back the clock. Don't tell Mark Thompson that yet, but it is interesting to see, all kidding aside though, how much technology is starting to affect everything that we do. 61 years of R&D heritage inside the BBC with the BBC's research and development function. That group, not many people know, was responsible for some of the key innovations that drove the uptake of digital technologies, even analog technologies back in the day. But things like NICAM stereo, something we all take for granted, stereo sound, was invented by the BBC. Teletext, something we take for granted, and in fact something we'll be switching off very soon when digital switchover is complete, was invented by the BBC. DAB radio, the BBC. The recent launch of Freeview HD was made possible because the BBC's R&D group took the lead and developed a technology called DVB-T2. This is a terrestrial transmission technology that basically squeezes more bandwidth out of the existing spectrum. And the reason we had to do that was Ofcom was not willing to give us more spectrum to launch HD. So they said, if you want to launch HD, you have to do it with the allocation of spectrum that you have. So our engineers went to work, partnered with the industry, and drove something really unique, which is literally launched earlier this week and will be available in the first quarter of next year to the masses, hopefully in time for the World Cup. So innovation and engineering at the heart of everything that we do. Now, what's interesting to me is that, and if you would have seen the slide, the original BBC home service was just one service. Then television was launched, and we had BBC One and Two and a couple more radio stations. That was in the analog world. And then when the digital world arrived, from a broadcasting perspective, we went from hardly any choice to lots and lots of choice. Now, second attempt, let's see, there you go. So if you look at that slide at the top there, home service, the analog world, and then an explosion of choice in the digital world. Lots of television, lots of radio, and interactive services. I actually believe that this is the tip of the iceberg, and with the internet coming of age, that the concept of limited shelf space, i.e. limited ability to deliver because of spectrum capabilities, issues like that, the internet washes that all away. And suddenly you're in a world where the whole concept of 8 channels is meaningless. You can now have 1,000 channels, 1,000,000 channels, you decide. It's no longer an issue. And so what's interesting to us is that for the longest time, BBC Online as our service on the internet was kind of the poor cousin of the family. It was the service that was there to support the linear output on radio and on television. And it has done so very successfully. We have now literally got over, is this clicker dead again? I'm sorry guys, this is, someone needs to fix this. Here we go, very good. We've now got over 27 million unique users per week on BBC Online. 27 million unique users per week. That's an amazing amount. And by the way, that is just in the UK. If you now add the global audience to that, you're well over 50 million unique users every single week using the BBC. So I think we're at an inflection point for the BBC where we are moving from a 2 platforms, radio, television, plus 1. Finally, the realization has dawned upon us that we're actually moving to a 3 platform world where the internet is perceived and seen as an equal to radio and television. Now, in some areas of the BBC, there was enlightenment early on. Children's took it very serious and they said, actually, this is more important potentially than our linear output. The news people took it very serious very early on. They didn't hold back news to make the 6 o'clock news more attractive. They said, if we have news and it's breaking news, we'll stick it on the web. It sounds really silly to talk about it this way now, but think 5, maybe 8 years back, I'm sure there were lengthy discussions about, no, we have to hold it back, because what about the 6 or the 8 or the 10, bulletins. And so the internet raised to something that is of equal status, and I think, this is my personal prediction, that it may actually go above. If you listen to what Stephen Carter, when he was in office, said, he said, broadcast is a subset of broadband. It's quite interesting if you think about that. And it was quite a statement to make in front of 150 of the top leaders of the BBC. I could see everyone cringing. What is he talking about? But it's true, because audio-video distribution is just one of the things you can do on the web. And that's the only thing that broadcast really can do. It does it very effectively and efficiently, but go 5 to 10 years into the future and you'll see that that's going to be normal. So internet at the heart of everything we do. BBC Online representing the past, present, and future of the BBC. It's the one service that represents more of the BBC than any other service that we currently operate, because everything is there. News, sport, weather, drama, comedy, entertainment. Through iPlayer you can catch up, watch live. Everything the BBC does is available in one place at your fingertips. Literally, what's happened is a world of choice where consumers can get more channels. We're moving to a world of control where consumers control what they watch, when they watch, what they listen to, what they read, whenever they decide to. So the whole multi-platform world, I think we're well set up for that. Now, BBC Online in 2009 has done some pretty amazing stuff, and there's too much here to talk about, but I'll give you a couple of examples. The one on the front there is Democracy Live, and it's unique, really unique. It won't get millions and millions of users, but what it does, it takes the concept of transparency for political institutions in the nations and political institutions in Brussels to a whole new level. We've installed cameras in all those places, and we are encoding every single public session that is being held. We are using speech-to-text technology, which we then index, making everything that is said in those sessions searchable. So literally you can now go and say, I'm looking for Gordon Brown, boom, and you will get right to the videos where someone says the word Gordon Brown or where you can find Gordon Brown. We will introduce and have introduced pages on each and every politician. So you can now see what they said, where they said it, when they said it, how they behaved. It's quite interesting that the public at large suddenly has complete transparency if they want to. And this is possible because, obviously, the advances in technology. But there have been other great things that we've done. Formula One, sports is obviously moving here. The Formula One coverage has been absolutely fantastic with new innovations, allowing people to flip camera views from different cars, allowing people to have access to the telemetry. What's the car doing? How many G's is it pulling? I don't know if you're a Formula One fan. My wife is, funny enough. And that's why I got into it. But it's not just BBC Online, it's also BBC Red Button. So BBC Online has 27 million uniques per week in the UK alone. The Red Button service has around 11 to 12 million uniques per week still using it. It's a very different audience. It skews older, and from a demographics perspective, it skews C2DE. But it's very much loved. Big success stories, Glastonbury coverage, the Maestro cam. You know, the proms, we had a camera pointed at the Maestro conducting, and you could actually listen to the prom and see the Maestro's expressions. Quite funny, little gimmicky things, but loved by the audience. Wimbledon, very much a big success story. We think that there is a big opportunity with Red Button and taking it to the next level, and that's where a project called Canvas comes in. And what's interesting about Project Canvas and Red Button is that my division, I have decided, together with my colleagues in the BBC, that the television platforms team that builds Red Button, that builds the services for Canvas, if it gets approved by the BBC Trust, that team will move here to literally next door. But it's not just on television, it's also on mobile. And if you think about the explosion of mobile internet in particular, it's been quite amazing. The growth curve of the BBC's online services on mobile devices has been traditional hockey stick. I haven't seen anything like that in the BBC for a while. We are now the number 3 player in the marketplace after Google and Facebook. Then it's the BBC's mobile service. It's mainly driven by news, weather, and sports, but iPlayer is now also available on 21 different handsets and growing. About a year ago, that was only 4 handsets. And so it's really starting to take off, and things like the iPhone, where you suddenly have a mobile computing device that's connected to a fast network, changes the paradigm. And the whole concept of apps is something that we will be embracing, and I think is something that we will be betting on big time out of BBC North. iPlayer, big story. I hope we have many users in this audience. It's been a great success story for us, and I won't bore you with all the details, but I wanted to highlight this one in particular because this is the iPlayer Wii application. Now, if you are a Nintendo Wii owner and you have it hooked up to the internet, you now get for free access to BBC iPlayer in your living room over the internet. It's a dedicated application that was built partially here in the north, in Manchester. And the early group of people that went up north from Television Platforms team were deeply involved in this. This was a collaboration between the BBC and the Nintendo offices in both Tokyo, Seattle, and in the UK. It's the first of its kind, never been done in the world before, and audiences absolutely love it. If you have a Wii, I encourage you to try it out. It is absolutely fantastic to see content that was originally intended for the television find its way back to the television through gaming consoles. Okay, let's go on. Project Canvas. I don't know how much this audience knows about Project Canvas, but it is quite well published and discussed and debated in the industry, of which we're very happy. The project is completely dependent upon BBC Trust approval, and we're hoping to hear from them shortly with some interim conclusions for this proposal. It's a partnership proposal. We're doing this together with British Telecom, with ITV and Channel 5, and there are others in the wings waiting to join that we will be announcing shortly, and those are very significant players as well. So it's an industry effort. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to achieve a couple of things. We believe that it's important that free-to-air television platforms remain competitive in the marketplace. We believe it's important that free-to-air, Freeview and FreeSat, remains a platform where you can get fantastic services, and that if you want the latest and the greatest, you are not forced to a pay-only platform. So we believe that that equal level playing field, so whether you are poor or rich, you have access to the same universal sort of services and capabilities. So Project Canvas aims to take Freeview and FreeSat and marry it with the internet, basically, simply put. We intend to do that as I said, in partnership, but one of the key reasons we believe this is a great opportunity is we have a thing called iPlayer. Most people consume that on a PC or a Mac or a Linux box. You can now get it onto your television on a Freeview or FreeSat box. The other thing we believe is important is that it's all going to be based on modern internet technologies. And what that allows is it allows third parties to develop applications and services with existing tools, with existing technologies, and for the first time give third parties access to the living room. In today's world, if you want to build an app or a service and you want to get it into the living room, it is virtually impossible. Either you're a big broadcaster, either you're a big cable operator or satellite operator, otherwise you have no choice today. The internet opens that door up and completely gives new startups and new businesses an opportunity. It's very similar to what Apple has done with the iPhone, where suddenly you have a platform that's in the hands of millions, and where literally 90 to 100,000 apps have been developed and have been distributed. In fact, there's now more apps being downloaded than music on iTunes. So it's quite an interesting indication of how the world's moving. So when people think of Canvas, they always say, oh, that's iPlayer on your television. And I think that's a gross mistake. It's about a computing platform based on standard technologies that allows third parties, whether they are free or pay, to deliver their services into the living room to consumers. That will create a level playing field, and hopefully, if we get approval, will create a new competitive landscape around these sorts of services. What I've also brought is a quick demonstration. And so if we can flip over to the demonstration. What I'm about to show you is not Canvas. That's the first thing. Some of you may have seen this before. But what it is, it's kind of a demo of what an IPTV, a modern IPTV platform, an internet television platform could do, and what the capabilities would be, and what sorts of experiences as a consumer you could expect.
Out into the arena, Usain Bolt looked as though
I'll turn the volume down a bit. So imagine it's 2012. Now we used some of the Beijing Olympics footage to kind of build this example. But imagine it's 2012. Olympics come to the country. It's a very big moment. Now hopefully by that time Canvas was approved, and we shipped it, and consumers love it, and we have an installed base of this platform out there. What can you expect? So you click the button and you say, okay, you go into a guide, your usual guide, and it says, okay, you can record, you can watch. Hey, there's this thing called applications. So let's see what this applications is all about. All right, applications. There's 3 applications here. There is it's hard to see for me, there's an Usain Bolt application, there's an IOC Olympics Extra application, there's a BBC Olympics app, but because this platform is open for third parties and is not just for PSB, not just for free to air, not just for PSB, you also see, and this is just an example, a commercial application, Nike Olympics. It's an open platform. They can develop an app, they can put it on there. So Nike decided to build an app and put it on there. But we are obviously interested in the BBC Sports app, and let's have a look what that's all about. So we say, okay, let's choose that. So you end up in this new world where you're logged on. In the top you can see that. It just went away if you didn't see it. Sorry about that. But you've got 3 carousels here. You've got news, Classic Olympics, and your highlights. So let's take a look at the Classic Olympics. BBC is one of the largest audio-visual archives on the planet. We literally have 60 miles of shelf space filled with celluloid, tape, discs, vinyl, pictures, letters, and there is lots and lots and lots of stuff in there about the Olympics. And so you could see a world where you go from a linear experience on the Olympics into an on-demand experience, and you want to learn more about some of the archive material, in this case, long jump classics. But I'm not interested in that today, so I'm going to the highlights and I say, okay, what's going on? Oh, have a look. Twitter decided to build an application that integrates nicely with this IPTV platform. But that's not what I'm interested in. I missed the 100-meter semifinal, and so that's what I'm going to watch. And I want to know what's going on. So I click, okay, let's go watch that. So you launch into the semifinal, and we all know what happens next, but just imagine a little bit. Stay with me. All right, boom, fine, we know what happens. The whole world's on fire. Usain Bolt just did a fantastic world record, unbelievable. Twitter must be ablaze. So what's happening on Twitter? Let's go take a look. I want to see what people are saying there. The view scales back, the Twitter stream comes up, and it starts to, roll in. So suddenly you bring the world of social media and social capability right into the living room, and you're connected. You're connecting the world of broadcast on demand with social media. It's just an example of what is potentially possible, right? So okay, that was nice. Let's keep going. Hey, there's an alert that I set from the train on my mobile phone because I am a big fencing fan. Now in the old days, as in today, fencing would probably not make it onto broadcast because we don't have enough spectrum. But during the Olympics, there will be 5,000 hours of content available over a period of 2 weeks. You can't broadcast it all. We don't have the spectrum. On the web, I can make that all available, no problem. So if I have an audience of 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 that are interested in fencing, they can watch fencing live. On demand, it's all available. So okay, I can choose watch, save, or snooze. I'm interested. I want to watch this. Boom, it flips over and off you go. You're in the fencing experience, only available via IP. You couldn't get that before. So choice for consumers to get access to stuff that previously wasn't there, suddenly is there. Okay, now my friend Chloe sends me a message and says, oh my God, a message from Chloe. I can read it, or I can, what does it say? Not read it. I decide to read it, and it says, check out the rowing. This final was simply amazing, but I'm too deep in my fencing. I don't want to be bothered by rowing right now. So I said, save it so I can watch it later. So I hit save. It then saves the experience, that bit of video, to my video menu, so that when I go back into my menu, it's there for me, bookmarked, ready to watch. Okay, let's keep going. Now my daughter comes in, Zoe signs on, and the entire experience changes because, as a dad, I have particular needs of the experience, but my daughter wants a much more fleshy experience. It's Newsround branded, it's got different color scheme, and so basically we can tailor it and personalize it for the different users. So it's just a little flavor of some of the things that are possible. What's most exciting about this sort of stuff for me is that if you build an internet standards-based platform, the things that will happen are we can't predict, and that's the fun part about it. It's just you put the infrastructure in place, and other people will start to innovate on top of that. And so, while it's cool to see some of these examples, what's much more exciting is all the stuff we don't know about yet, and all the innovation that could potentially happen on top of this. So, can I get my slides back, please? So just finish up. Here we go. So, FMNT, right there on the other side. What are we doing here? Well, basically, we're putting a mini FMNT in place. A mini FMNT. So, what does that mean? We'll have a future media team building online services, building web presence for both 10-foot and 2-foot mobile and television, supporting the content groups that come here. What we'll also do is the services that if Canvas gets approved, and by the way, if any of you have friends in the BBC Trust, please don't hesitate to call them. They're still in deliberation mode. The BBC Trust needs to approve this. Then we can move, those Canvas folks up here, and they can start to develop services. We'll have an R&D presence up here. BBC Research and Development is building a lab in the north. We'll have a presence with Information and Archives, the BBC Archive up here. So basically we have a bit of everything. And we're quite keen to make sure that we create a microcosm of the division up here in the north in some of the most innovative things that we're doing, whether that's Canvas, whether it's mobile, whether it's online. Another area that is near and dear to my heart is, officially we call them immersive experiences. Normal people would call them games. I think what's exciting about it is not games for the sake of, PlayStation games or Wii games or stuff like that, but games that inform, educate, and entertain. If you go to the CBeebies or CBBC website, it is absolutely filled with tiny little flash applications that help kids read, calculate, maths, all that sort of stuff. It is very interesting to see how through gaming experiences we can absolutely educate not only children, but frankly the entire population. So that's a new area that we'll be investing in up north. Something we'll be setting up just here because of its long history. The north has a long history of gaming, in particular Manchester. So what am I looking for? I'm going to be pretty selfish here right now, given the audience that I'm talking to. We will need some of the best user experience and design people. At the end of the day, all the technology in the world doesn't make a difference. It'll all come down to how easy and useful is it for a consumer to interact with the service. It's easy to make a complicated mousetrap. It's difficult to make something that is incredibly advanced, but incredibly simple and easy to use. And so skills in the UXD, or user experience and design category, are hard and difficult to come by. They're hard to find, and we're really, really trying to, get that part up. It's not just for design on websites for PC and Mac consumption. It is for consumption on a phone, consumption on a Nintendo Wii, consumption on a 10-foot screen, etc., etc. So any device that connects to the internet, we need people who understand how to design fantastically engaging, sexy, useful, funny user experiences. Really, really important, something that many people underestimate. Second, software engineers. I can't stress enough how important this is. And it's funny because I spoke at the Royal Society to a lot of policymakers and government officials that the Digital Britain report is great, that it tries to deal with the plumbing. It tries to build fast pipes, and I question whether it's ambitious enough, but let's put that to one side for now. But what it doesn't do is, it doesn't say, once you have those pipes, where are the skills that are going to build the services and applications to make use of those fast pipes? Because the problem with the internet is, it's global. And so if we don't build those services and applications, people in the United States, in China, in Brazil, in Russia, wherever they are, will build them and will bring them to our shores in a heartbeat. It's just one click away. One click away, that's it. And so I think the country needs to invest in software engineering. The people that I'm mostly interested in are people who understand Linux, people who understand Apache, people who understand MySQL, people who understand PHP, Java. Those are the sorts of skills that I'm really, really looking after. Hardcore engineers. The more the better. Bring them on, I say. It's what we need. And I think, for me, these engineers are as important and as creative as our editorial talent is. So they're not the guys in the white coat with the screwdriver in the basement. These are just as creative as editorial talent. Last but not least, a really, really, really important jobs discipline as well, product managers. As we move away from a world where we simply publish stuff and forget about it, and as we move towards a much more product-centric world where online products are things that are alive, that get updated, that you constantly develop on and invest in, product management is going to be key. These are people who are, in my view, the CEOs of the product. They are there from the inception of the product, the concept of it, all the way through the life cycle to the point where you sunset the product and you kill it, and the next thing comes up. These are the people that make sure that all the stakeholders, internal, external, get heard. These are the folks that create the roadmaps. These are the folks that keep the project on track. They're hard to find. They're really hard to find. And I'm afraid that right now, I am forced to look abroad for these skill sets. I'm looking in the States, I'm looking in central, in mainland Europe. And these people are simply difficult to come by. So, next steps. North Recruitment website opens January 2010. Is that right, Richard? Yep. Recruitment begins June 2010. So we have lots and lots of folks that we would like to bring on board here, ideally in the skill sets that we mentioned. Now, there's one group that I didn't mention that I do think is very important, and this is just good old-fashioned general management. I mean, folks that understand Management 101, who can run large groups, large divisions, large teams of talent and manage them well. I think that will always be important, and it's something we're always going to be looking for. And obviously, bbc.co.uk/jobs is where you'll find much more information. Anyway, I think that's it. Thank you very much.